In today's latest news, we talk Victor Osimhen as he publicly reveals that he has a dream of playing in the Premier League. After that, it is looking like Joao Felix's future when it comes to remaining with us could be dependent on us securing Champions League qualification. And after that, the club are planning to dramatically cut the size of the squad in the summer window, and we have some big updates around potential exits. So right now, my friends, I hope you all enjoyed today's video, and of course, hit that like button. I'm superstitious. We need all the luck we can have against Borussia Dortmund tonight. So I want to get 2k likes before our game against Borussia Dortmund, and without wasting any more time. So right now, let's start things off by discussing Joao Felix. Not Joao Felix, and I gotta be honest with you guys, this is like my 7th attempt re-recording this part of the video because I keep calling him Joao Felix, I keep getting it wrong, but I've got no excuses this time. As Joao Felix was doing press conference duties alongside Graham Potter for the game against Dortmund yesterday, he revealed how to say his name properly. So listen, I've heard you, Joao Felix, I'm going to do right by your name, yeah? But regardless, reports are suggesting that his future when it comes to remaining at this football club could be dependent on us securing Champions League qualification. And at this point in time, our best two chances on getting Champions League football for next season is if 1, we somehow end up winning every single game before the season ends, sure, or number 2, we win the tournament now for this season. Now personally, in terms of fear factors when I assess other competitors in the Champions League this season, I don't really fear Real Madrid. I think our games recently against them have shown that we can go toe to toe and we can outplay them. Bayern Munich maybe, but I feel like without Lewandowski they're not quite the same. Maybe Man City, but that is fully dependent on the fact that we've lost every game to them this season. Anyway, in Felix's press conference, he did kind of allude to the fact very coyly that maybe his future at this club is dependent on us getting Champions League football for next season. But I'm not going to speak for him. Right now, I'm going to play a clip so you guys can hear exactly what Felix had to say.
In the terms if I want to stay or not, I think the future, no one's know. Now I'm just focused on tomorrow's game. After that, we don't know what will happen. Yeah, playing Champions League, it's always different. As I said, it's a competition that everyone wants to play. But yeah, playing Champions League, it's an important decision. But the future, no one knows. So let's see what happens.
Now, I like the fact that Felix still has some hope that maybe we can still, climb up the table in the league. That gives me a little bit of confidence at least, and I'm hoping that, after winning against Leeds, if we can beat Dortmund tonight, I'll start to feel that hope a little bit if this is how the players are feeling behind the scenes. Now, I do get what Felix is saying, but even if we didn't get Champions League football for next season, I still think there's a possibility that we could still persuade Felix to remain with us because he really is enjoying his time here. He likes the football, he likes the players, he likes the Premier League, he likes the coach here at this point in time. And realistically, if he didn't sign for us, where could he go to? What, maybe Arsenal? Could maybe Man City make a move for him? I'm not too sure. There aren't many clubs around that could afford his wages and his transfer fee as well too. So personally, I have some hope that we could persuade him to remain if we strike a deal in the summer. I guess right now, there are some interesting conversations to have. To some people, they feel like Felix is a luxury signing that isn't necessarily needed. Now that we have guys like Nkunku, if you commit to signing Joao Felix, it does imply that you're taking a significant amount of your transfer budget away to keep him on a permanent deal. And considering the fact that we need to sign a top tier striker, that is going to cost us a lot of money. Could it become a thing where we either commit to signing Joao Felix or let him go back to Atletico Madrid and use that same money to sign a striker? That could be one way in which things are seen at this point in time, but we have to also remember that this is still a very flexible and fluid situation. Who knows how this season is going to end? One thing I do know about this board though is that these guys prepare for the future. As I've been saying in many videos throughout the month, all the players we sign in January, in their contracts, they did sign contracts detailing that if we don't get Champions League football next season, they will earn less money. So that tells me that we can still find some success, even though we might have to make certain sacrifices, but we could still compete in the summer window and still survive without having Champions League football. Now, I personally feel that if we do decide to keep Joao Felix, we will sell players to make sure we keep him. But to end things, if Felix wants to remain here, if he wants to play Champions League football. I feel like tonight is his night where he can make the biggest impact possible, because let's not forget that we've done so much for a guy that we don't technically own. For example, guys like Madueke and many others that we actually own don't have Champions League squad places because we gave that to Joao Felix instead. Now, if that isn't like a massive sign of confidence and intent from this club towards Joao Felix, then I don't know what is. So, you know, he can really control his destiny tonight if he steps up, announces himself, and becomes that match winner today. So let's see how this game plays out. That's the news on Joao Felix. And right now, let's move on to discussing the latest reports around Victor Osimhen. Now, recently, Osimhen picked up an award for being the best foreign athlete in Italy during 2022. And during his interviews with foreign press, he spoke to The Athletic, and he did reveal that he does have a dream of one day playing in the Premier League. That is why he is working hard. He wants to achieve this dream and make it happen. And here's exactly what Osimhen had to say.
But of course, a lot of people worldwide consider the Premier League as the best and the strongest league. But of course, I'm on a process. I'm in a phase. So now I'm in one of the best league in the world, which is the Italian Serie A. Of course, I'm working so hard to make sure that I achieve my dream in playing, of course, in the Premier League someday.
Now, at this point in time, his contract does expire in 2025, and currently there are no talks to give him a contract extension. As we do know in this game, once players get to the final 2 years of their contracts, this is the best opportunity for a player to move on. And the fact that there are no contract extension talks does tell me that there is a possibility Osimhen could leave. And if he is able to help Napoli secure the Scudetto for like the first time since 1990, if I can remember properly, I'd imagine that he'd leave with a lot of goodwill and faith behind him. Now, we can't forget that Osimhen's idol growing up was Didier Drogba. Here's another clip I'm going to play.
Who is your role model?
Didier Drogba. Because he's the kind
But you're not as big as him.
of course. Yeah, because he's the kind of player I would like to be as a player and as a person. Because if Drogba is playing, you always want to win, and that is the mentality I've always had since from my childhood.
Are you indirectly telling me you want to play for Chelsea?
No, if I'm opportunity to play for Chelsea, it's a great privilege for me because Chelsea is a great club. So I think playing for them would be the greatest opportunity I've ever had in this life.
And personally, I love the legacy that Drogba's left at this football club. Like when I was a kid, I remember the controversy around Drogba at the time. People didn't really like him. It took the fan base a long time to really warm up to him. It wasn't until Drogba started getting us trophies and silverware that he started to get more popular within this fan base. But the legacy this guy's left is really setting us up in the future, because all the best African talents want to play for us. And right now, Osimhen is one of the top 5 strikers in world football. Now, because he has 2 years left on his current deal, there's only so much money Napoli could realistically ask for. There have been figures suggesting that a fee between 120 million euros and 130 million euros would be the amount they wanted. But personally, I kind of feel like you could negotiate down a little bit if you find like a great way to structure this deal. And even though I've been saying Osimhen would be incredibly hard to get done, we can't forget the fact that this board does the absolute most to make sure they can secure their number 1 targets. We literally saw this in the January window. So even though Osimhen would be very hard, he is not technically impossible. Now, another thing that stood out for me when Osimhen made those comments was that he made them in front of De Laurentiis. De Laurentiis was present when he was communicating to the foreign press. And if Osimhen made it adamant that, listen, I've got some incredible offers in the summer, I do want to go, I don't see De Laurentiis stopping him. As long as De Laurentiis gets big money from Osimhen, and if Osimhen leaves as a legend securing the Scudetto for Napoli, I feel like that could be the workaround that allows Osimhen to lead them in the summer. At the same time, we're also assessing other striker targets. And right now, we find ourselves in a very interesting dilemma. We're looking at Tammy Abraham as that realistic, reliable option that won't cost as much money. We're looking at Victor Osimhen as the number 1 guy that ideally we prefer to sign. He's one of the most informed, hottest strikers in world football. And at the same time, we're also still holding dialogues and conversations for young teenage sensation Victor Roque. What would you guys do in this situation realistically? Now for me, I'd love it to be like a Roque plus either one of these guys, but you know, if money was no thing, it would be Victor Osimhen and Victor Roque. I think these guys together, that could safeguard us for many years in the future. But for me, if we decide to make a move for Osimhen, that is going to be reliant upon player sales. I think we'd have to really restructure this squad in a very smart and intelligent way. Right now, we need a striker with dimensions. You know, Osimhen for me has like the pace of like a Fernando Torres, plus like the overall footballing ability of a Didier Drogba. Obviously, they're not like a direct fusion, but he has really nice elements from both strikers, and I kind of feel like this is the striker that typically does well at Chelsea Football Club. We've only had guys like Costa and Drogba that have been quite similar in that profile. We haven't really had anyone since maybe Nicolas Anelka, but I think Anelka was probably the most technical striker I've seen at this football club, so it's no surprise that he did so well. But out of 3 strikers in like, what, 20 years, we haven't had great success. But I do think that an Osimhen profile type of striker would do very well at this football club. So let's see what happens in the summer window. So right now, let's end things by discussing more updates around player exits. Now for this part of the video, I want to talk about our potential budget for the summer window and the variables and the factors that go into place that determine how much money we can actually spend in summer. And at the same time, let's discuss the updates around potential exits as well too. Right now, the reality is very simple. We need to dramatically reduce the size of this squad. It's way too big right now. We need to fine-tune things and really assess, okay, how are we trying to play and who are the profiles that we need to take this existing group of players to the next level. So now the agenda for next season is simply this: reduce the size of the squads, prepare for life without Champions League football, of course, sell tons of players to help fund moves for new players in the summer window as well too. And I feel quite optimistic around this because currently we have a ton of sellable assets. Right now, the main favourites who will be leaving are going to be Zakaria, whose loan spell is going to come to an end. Pulisic, Hakim Ziyech and Aubameyang are dead certain to be leaving. And you'd imagine that between all 3 of these guys, you're looking at least nearly, what, 55, 60 million. And when you consider that they're earning over like 100k a week as well too, like you're dramatically reducing the size of the wage bill, which is going to be key if we don't have Champions League football for next season. Now for the next group, these are players that we are open to selling because again, we need to raise funds to reinvest back in the team. Those guys currently are Ruben, Kai Havertz, Mason Mount, Kovacic, Gallagher, Trevor Chalobah, as well as Edouard Mendy as well too. Now I'm not expecting all these guys to be leaving, but currently they all have very decent transfer values. I mean, right now, players like Ruben can get you like close to 20 million. Conor Gallagher can get you between 30 to 40 million. Imagine if we sold Mason Mount. That's at least 70 million right there. Kai Havertz is between 50 to 60. There's so many players at our disposal. And let's not even forget guys like Romelu Lukaku, where his future is very dependent on whether Inter Milan can afford to keep him for the following windows. So hypothetically, yeah, if we decided to sell all these guys or most of these players, I think we could command sales of up to 200 million in total at least in the summer window. That gives us a lot of money to play with. Now, missing out on Champions League football is not going to be helpful at all, but I kind of feel like our performance in this year's tournament can at least ease the potential loss of Champions League football for next season. Because let's break down the amount of money you earn when you do participate in the Champions League. For example, the moment you enter the tournament, you earn around £13.5 million. For every win you get in the group stage, you earn around 2.5 million. For every draw you get, that's around £800,000. And currently, we've got 4 wins, 1 draw and 1 loss. Altogether, the group stage earnings are between 24 to 25 million. Now, once you get to the round of 16, you earn an additional 8.2 million. Now, if you can get to the quarterfinals, that can earn you an additional 9.1 million. If you get to the semis, that brings in an additional 10.7 million, and reaching the final and winning it can earn you between 13.3 million or 17 million. Now, I'm hoping we can go as far as we can, but for the sake of this conversation, let's assume that we can get to like the quarterfinals at least, or the semi-finals. Doing so brings in an additional 10 to 20 million on top of what we've already earned in this season's Champions League. So, earning this amount of money is going to help us account for losses for next season. So the lack of Champions League football isn't necessarily the end of the world, knowing that we have so many sellable assets on top that can really ease that loss for next season. Anyway, knowing that we're targeting 3 key positions next summer, that's going to be a striker, a top midfield player, and a goalkeeper as well too. you'd imagine the budget for those positions to sign like, you know, top targets will be between like 200 million at least. I kind of feel like with our earnings for the Champions League this season, plus sales, as well as the fact that we exploited FFP in January, which is going to spread the costs out of many of these big buys over many years, I feel like we have enough room to still sign some great players, as long as we can persuade them to sign for us without Champions League football. So personally, I'm feeling confident. I feel like our owners prepare for everything in the future as well too, so I'm still expecting us to do some big business this summer. So right now, my friends, I'm going to wrap things up, keep things moving. Thank you for watching. I'm in the FC, this is BlueLionsTV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos. Cool.